Hey, welcome back. This is Shah. I found a Reddit thread about paternity fraud, which I think is particularly juicy. It has been deleted from the original thread, but I made sure to screenshot it because I knew that would happen. Let's go ahead and read this together. Am I the asshole for refusing to take my kids' calls after finding out my wife committed paternity fraud? My wife, 50, and I, 52, have not been getting along for the past 5 years. In fact, of our 15-year marriage, around 8 of them were spent sexless. We talked about dead bedrooms on this channel before, and 8 years is just absolutely unacceptable. If you're in that situation, leave, no matter what. Around 5 years ago, I tried to broach the idea of an amicable divorce, but my wife would not have it. She cried, refused to do housework, or even acknowledge the kids. She is a stay-at-home mom, and I work 55 plus hours a week as a concierge supervisor at a hotel. I nearly lost my job from the stress of that period. She finally said she would divorce after all the kids, aged 14, 13, and 10, left the house. And I just gave up and hoped things would pick up. So we settled back to me dealing with demanding guests during the day, hoping my $60,000 a year can turn into $65,000 one day, and then coming home to a cold, sarcastic wife. There were times when I found somebody else attractive, but I never acted on those feelings. I just thought about my kids and how I needed to continue to love my wife because she was their mom, and how I could sleep at night knowing I was keeping their parents under one roof. Then one day, I come home to my wife crying. She tells me that she has been unfaithful, and that from age 24 to age 33, she was dating a married man, 30 years older than her. 30 years older! But they rekindled their affair a few months after we married. She told me that we were very poor at the time, and that he got her a job at a company and helped supplement her salary with cash gifts, and I never knew about it. All this time, I thought it was leasing commissions. This sounds strangely like a sugar baby, sugar daddy thing going on. Like what it sounds like to me is that maybe his wife used to do this, probably even prior to them meeting, and, she just can't give up the lifestyle. And she tells me that he just died, and in the state of Louisiana, all biological kids under 24 have a claim to his estate. He stayed with his long-suffering wife and refused to acknowledge the girls, but my wife said she took my DNA without me knowing a long time ago, and that they are not mine, but my son is. Wow, that is absolutely insane. And what's crazy about that is she's only telling him because she wants those 2 older daughters to be able to have a claim on this rich guy's estate. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have said anything, which in itself is freaking insane. It's like psychopathic. To say I was furious was an understatement. I know part of the reason she stayed with me is because I had hopes of starting a business, but life got in the way. I don't even know if that's true. He's probably wrong there. She probably stayed with him because this other guy was never going to marry her. They kind of had a thing going on in the background, and this dude was just safe, basically. She probably, he probably didn't make that much money, and she probably didn't expect him to. But now that she can sue a rich man's estate, she tells me and doesn't seem to care that I filed for divorce the next day. I left the house within the hour and am now renting a place, just going to work and circling the drain of depression. It's been a few weeks, and my lawyer keeps telling me to make contact with my kids and work out a custody arrangement. I actually did take a few things that could be used for a DNA test, paid for it to be run only to confirm that only my son is mine. My wife didn't care that I did so. After it all went down, I started getting calls, starting once a day, but now several times a day, actually 8 calls this morning, from my 2 oldest quote-unquote kids. Them leaving me messages crying, saying they wanted to talk. But they aren't actually my kids. Everything is a lie, and I blow up at anybody who tries to convince me otherwise. My son is too young to call, but he was in one of the messages too. I want to pick up the phone and tell them to leave me alone. They do not feel like family to me right now. Guys, this whole story is just absolutely insane. And if you guys understood the laws, you would know how screwed this guy really is. It is with definitive scientific proof that this man is not the father. But there's nothing he can do about it, even with the divorce. Even if they both go in there and say together, hey, he's not the dad. I don't want him to pay child support. It's not going to work because U.S. law will not allow him to challenge paternity once those kids are over 2 years of age, which all 3 of them are, and he's already the legal father. Maybe in some ideal world, if you were the legal father and by some some magic, the other actual father came and said, hey, I'm going to be willing to facilitate an adoption with those kids, maybe it can happen. But it's not going to happen here because the man who's actually the biological father is passed away. So it doesn't matter at this point. And this happens to so many guys. You know, this is a law, in my personal opinion, that needs to be changed. You know, I worked at a child support agency for 5 years. My job was to find the father of kids, you know, sue them, and get a child support order, get an order that said they were the dad and they must pay for this child this much a month starting this date, you know. And what would happen with a lot of those cases is that, you know, it goes based off who mom names, right? Moms with multiple people, she might name one person first. She might name someone first because that person is better off financially. You know, I see a lot of men out here, a lot of disappointment with the way family law is run, especially in our country. But it's all just sort of scattershot energy. And not enough people are looking at the laws and seeing what can be changed to make this right. You know, instead we have advice to become high value men, become hyper masculine, you know, all become, you know, a legion of Andrew Tates, but that's not going to solve these problems. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a normal guy like this guy who works at a concierge, or if you're a plumber, or if you're freaking Andrew Tate with Bugattis, or if you're Kevin Costner or Brendan Fraser or Tom Brady or whoever. Wealth and, you know, how tall you are is not going to protect you from this. And people need to come together and they need to revisit these laws and say, hey, maybe this isn't working. Maybe we need to maybe we just need to get rid of this and allow a father to challenge paternity anytime this happens. Why do I think that's right? Because I think if people understand that, hey, there's a consequence for doing this to somebody, you know, you might end up in a situation if you're a mom where your kid's 10 years old and the father finds out what you did, and legally he can challenge paternity and the courts can undo it for him. And now he's not responsible for that kid. The wife here, the mom of these kids, there's no criminal charges, nothing. I mean, and I'm not even asking for criminal charges. I'm just asking for someone to be able to at least challenge paternity, be like, hey, these aren't my kids, and I want you to undo legal paternity, and I want you guys to go after who is actually the father. Unfortunately, in this situation, that man's passed away, but that's a consequence the mother should accept, not the father. Anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this. What do you guys think about changing that law? Would you guys agree? Do you think it's a bad idea? I'm interested in hearing your opinions. We'll see you on the next one.